So we've been hearing about the autonomous zone in Seattle, which is an area where they basically protesters took it over, and there's no cops there. And there's just so much going on in Seattle right now. So to help me get through it, I got an old buddy of mine. This is a guy that I came up with in comedy, Brett Hamel. Brett, it's good to see you. And you have a political talk show up in Seattle.
Yes, I have a quarterly political talk show, live show called The Seattle Process with Brett Hamel. We interview, all the great leftist politicians, activists, and everything that are up here in Seattle. Shama Sawant. We've had Ijeoma Oluo on there, who's the #1 New York Times bestselling author as of yesterday. Just all the visionaries and luminaries of Seattle. So
Shama is doing some amazing stuff, man. And it's one of those things, like whenever, I get contacted by a lot of people running for office, which and I applaud people for doing that. And everybody, it's always Congress or Senate. And I'm just like, why don't you try for your city council? Look what Shama Sawant's doing. Try for city council, try for mayor. What about those spots? We need Shama Sawants in every city. That's what we need.
Oh yeah, and there will be more. I mean,
I hope so.
Our city council, if you might have heard, Amazon and other large corporations bankrolled a whole slate of candidates for this last election, to six-figure expenditures for each one, and they all lost except one. So we succeeded in pushing the council to the left, and Shama was definitely instrumental in that. And of course, now with all the demands to defund the Seattle Police Department, she's tried to defund the police department every year she's been in office. So she's already been laying the groundwork. So it just makes a huge difference to have someone, an actual voice in elected office, doing the things that the most revolutionary leftists on the ground are pushing for. It's pretty awesome. And she, you might have seen, she let the protesters into City Hall. She used her key.
So that's how it happened. So we have some footage of that right here. Here's the protesters going into City Hall, and this is from Alex Garland. Here, we can just kind of watch it without the volume so we can talk. But so here they are taking over City Hall, and then so after this happened, they took over City Hall, and then they formed the autonomous zone. Is that how it happened?
I'm not quite sure of the timeline exactly. I mean, I believe the autonomous zone, what they're calling Chaz, or I think my preference, the Cal Zone, because it's near Cal American Park. And I think that a food name is always appealing, especially if you're hungry, for a Cal Zone, maybe you'll hunger for, revolution. But it's all happened within the past week. So she let them all in there. They protested and chanted for our mayor, Jenny Durkin, to resign. And then they headed out after about 3 hours. They had speakers and stuff. And then, there's just a lot of actions like this going on. And it's beautiful. I mean.
And people are still at the autonomous zone. Like, people are still there.
Oh, it's an autonomous zone. So what precipitated that was that the police abandoned the East Precinct, their precinct house, which is right in the center of the Pike Pine corridor, if you know Capitol Hill in Seattle. And it's actually like a half a block from where I hold my political comedy talk show. So they abandoned it. And yeah, it's occupied by the people now. There's people going around with little wagons picking up garbage and recycling. There's stations where you can get food and water, even medical attention. People are, first responders and healthcare workers are leaving their job to come down to the Chaz and see if they can help people there. And of course, it's covered in beautiful art and graffiti, and it's pretty amazing.
Well, and they've been having performances, like there's been live music there, and I'm sure someone will try to do a comedy open mic soon. It's only a matter of time.
No.
It's only a matter of time before someone's like, how can we ruin this?
I hope that day never comes. But yeah, there is music, and it's the heart of Capitol Hill, where you and I have spent a lot of time doing comedy. I used to live, 10 blocks from there, and it's of course now you've got like local propaganda journalists trying to spread rumors that business owners are being extorted, and that there's like armed checkpoints and stuff. And then you'll look at the footage of what's actually going on, and it's some guy playing a folk song on a stage. It's completely the divide has never been, because we're used to this. Like with Shama Sawant, people are like, she's an angry, dangerous, subversive revolutionary, and then you meet her and she's like, oh, hello. It's just
well, do we know the lyrics to the folk song? Because maybe the guy's folk song, maybe he was playing a folk song and he's like, you're gonna have to pay us a little bit each month for protection. Like, is that what was going on?
I don't know, but it's just the disconnect, I think, actually radicalizes a lot of people, because they see the local Fox affiliates coverage that there's like extortion and stuff, and they walk down there and it's people like, here, you want a snack bar? Oh, do you have a gluten allergy? Well, I have some for that too. And it's truly unreal. And so actually the main journalist, who's like the main, Brandy Cruz of Fox News here, is the main sort of propaganda mouthpiece. She just critically reports whatever the cops say, with no real attempt at verifying it. Well, she did go back and try to find some of the business owners who had been extorted. And of course they were all like, no, it's great. Like my home theater where I have the talk show, they've been organizing since before it was an autonomous zone. And as a staging area for supplies for protesters and water and all that stuff. And they're stoked, and every day they're figuring out new ways they can help. You might remember Vermilion is a bar down there. It's like right in the heart of it.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
It's like the last stand of like non-corporate, non-bridge and tunnel clubs or bars on Capitol Hill. And they're a hub. You can go by there and get some water and use their bathrooms, and everyone's just really stepped up. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's absolutely nothing like how the media, and of course yesterday we had the tweet from Trump saying
he might,
he'll send in troops, and it's just funny because now
are you worried he might do that?
No, I'm not worried that he'll violate the Posse Comitatus Act or the Third Amendment, or as terrible as our mayor is, part of her brand is being a resistance Democrat. She's a corporate moderate Democrat, but I don't think she would allow that to happen. And it's given like moderate liberals an interesting gut check time, because they're like, oh, Trump is against us, but all the people there hate Durkin, so they're having to really reevaluate the whole situation.
So what do you kind of see happening in the long run here? Like what do you think? Like do you think we'll see like an extensive defunding of the police? Because I will say this, and this is sort of like the optimistic side in me. There are more people than I would have expected a year or two ago saying the stuff that a lot of us have been saying for a long time, where it's like, reform is not enough. That's too little, too late. That ship has sailed. We need a total gutting of all this, and we need to completely defund the police, demilitarize the police, and revisit what it means to have police at all. Do you think that'll happen nationwide?
I can't speak to nationwide. I hope so. I mean, I think the Overton window has been pulled in that direction. Seattle is a particularly good test case because our police department has been under a federal consent decree since like, I think 2012, 2013. So our cops were so violent and used unconstitutional use of force at such high rates that the feds came in during the Obama administration and were overseeing reform in the police department. Well, here we are in 2020. Nothing has changed. Unarmed black people,
they've gotten worse. They've gotten worse.
I mean, it's objectively gotten worse. And so when police responded to police brutality by doing more police brutality and literally gassing entire neighborhoods, there were stories of like this one couple that gave public testimony. They woke up and their baby was foaming at the mouth from the tear gas that got into there. They had to leave their home because of this sort of military act, these weapons of war.
And didn't they gas a 9-year-old too?
They just pepper sprayed a 9-year-old.
Pepper sprayed, pepper sprayed a 9-year-old. During Occupy, they pepper sprayed an 80-year-old.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, like if nothing happens by 2022, they're going to pepper spray a basket of kittens. I think that's what's next.
If they haven't already.
If they haven't already.
We need the body cam footage on that, but Yeah, we've done all that reform stuff. So the National Democrats released this thing of all this reform and use of force guidelines and banning chokeholds. And sure, do all that stuff now because there's more coming down the pipeline because none of that stuff worked for Seattle. And so we are a great example of like, we've done all those reform things you're talking about. When you do like use of force training or racial sensitivity training, a bunch of cops go in a room with another cop who trains them, and they sit there and eat snacks, and it's the biggest joke. It's like something out of like, high school detention. Like it's just cops complaining that someone called them honky or something. Like they're not qualified to teach their brothers and sisters, anti-racism. This stuff, it just doesn't work. So one of our like sort of left of center, but still dabbles in moderatism, Lorena Gonzalez here is putting forward a process to basically dismantle the police department in the way that Minneapolis has. So now we know that like our progressive city council members, they generally will try to do the least reform possible to placate, the sort of moderate Democratic voting bloc that
well, not just that, but all the money they get from police. I mean, all the money they get from police and the, the police unions that have a lot of power and, in most parts of the country.
Luckily, the police union has been bonkers for so long. Just their Facebook posts look like something off Rush Limbaugh or something. So people have been alienated from them for a while. So most candidates know that it's actually like a mark of shame to be endorsed by them.
Oh, okay.
So that's not as much a consideration here. We also have publicly funded campaigns now, so you can run and get basically democracy vouchers. So basically cash money from the city to run your campaign. So they don't have as much of a stranglehold here. It's more just a naked protection racket. Like we'll pull enforcement off of everything, and you'll see the city burn if you don't give us what we want. I mean, it's really. But in our case, it's a protection racket in which our mayor went from being an accomplice to being a target of the racket because now they're shaking her down. She promised no tear gas for 30 days, which is the saddest promise ever made. And then they tear gassed everyone literally 24 hours later. So
this thing that should be totally illegal to ever do, we're not going to do it for 30 days. We're 30 days. We're gonna have a truce. Then we'll do it again. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to